Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel and welcome to another set of double feature retro reviews. For the month of August, I'll be doing what I'm calling Outlaw Couples Month, where I review two movies following a couple that are basically on the run or just going up against the law. And today we're talking about probably the most iconic duo within this category. This is my retro review for Bonnie and Clyde, which came out in 1967 and is directed by Arthur Penn. If you like this video and you want to see more movie reviews like this, then you can go ahead and subscribe to this channel, and also make sure to hit the bell button to get notifications when a new video is released. Anyway, let's continue with the review. The movie stars Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway as Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker, a couple that lived during the Great Depression, and they basically build off a career of stealing cars, robbing banks, and becoming one of the most notorious outlaws in the world. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the channel, but I have sort of a small nitpick with the YouTube movie review community. I mean, it's a small one because most of the community, at least the people I know, are pretty great, but it seems like a lot of movie reviewers on YouTube don't really seem to want to review movies before 1975, because the mid to late 70s was when we got movies like Jaws and Star Wars, basically the movies that coined the term summer blockbuster and defined the era of films that we are in right now. And even I myself kind of point to Jaws as the beginning of new Hollywood, whereas everything beforehand was classic Hollywood. Now, I have seen Bonnie and Clyde before. The first time I ever saw it was in film school, but I haven't watched this movie since then. Now that it's once again fresh in my mind, I think it's fair to say that this movie marked the true beginning of the new Hollywood era, because Bonnie and Clyde is a movie that broke all kinds of ground when it came out in 1967, from how movies were made, what you could get away with, and of course there's the iconic ending, which I will talk about in a bit. But I remember watching this in film school. It was a class on American film history from 1960 to the present day. Bonnie and Clyde was the very first movie I saw as part of this class, and I can definitely see why this was the first one up, because there are so many things that this movie does that are unconventional for movies of the 1960s. It gets away with a lot more in terms of violence, sexuality, and there's a lot of trends that this movie does that kind of breaks the rules in how movies are made. But even with how groundbreaking this movie is, it wouldn't have meant anything had this movie not been good, and Bonnie and Clyde is fantastic. It's one of my top 100 favorite movies of all time. At number 73 to be more specific, but I remember seeing this in film school and fell in love with it. I always knew about this movie, I knew about the ending, but watching this movie for the first time was truly a delight. And even watching it now, the things that it gets away with are actually quite shocking. And I know I'm contradicting myself, because when I reviewed Commando earlier this year, I talked about how I was watching the director's cut, and there are more scenes of gore and violence in that movie that made me go, that was too violent to keep in the theatrical release? Huh, that's weird. And upon watching Bonnie and Clyde in 2024, you would think the same thing. Wow, this is really considered ultra-violent for the 1960s. But in this movie, you gotta keep in mind that this kind of broke ground in terms of what you could get away with. And for what this movie gets away with, I found it to be pretty shocking. There's somebody that gets shot directly in the face with blood spurting on a window glass, and I went, holy crap. But I think the two moments that really emphasize how this movie just push the boundaries is with the opening of the movie and the ending. The opening of the film, where we see Faye Dunaway completely naked. You don't see any nudity, but you can tell that she is naked. Was something that was kind of risque for 1967. And then the ending, where Bonnie and Clyde are being gunned down by the feds. Yeah, it might not be all that graphic today, but you gotta take into historical context of when this movie came out and what was available at the time. Nobody saw anything like that ending, and I can put myself in the mindset of somebody in 1967 watching this for the first time and going, what the fuck? In fact, my dad told me that when this movie came out, his mother, my grandmother, took him to see this movie, and my dad was about 11 or 12 when Bonnie and Clyde came out. And there was no rating system at the time. The rating system wouldn't go into effect until 1968, a year after this movie came out. So you can imagine when a mother takes her 11-year-old son to see a movie about two gangsters and that ending comes up, that's not really gonna sit well. Everyone really does talk about that ending, but the rest of the movie is great as well. Both Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway are great as Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker respectively. And Faye Dunaway is absolutely gorgeous in this movie. She's beautiful, but also I love how their relationship works. They basically have a code where they just steal stuff. They don't intend to really kill people. In fact, when Clyde kills somebody, they go into hiding for a long time just to try to not draw attention to themselves. But the rest of their crime spree consists of stealing cars and robbing banks. And I love the motivation that kind of leads both of them into committing these crimes of robbing banks. They hide away in an abandoned house where Clyde is teaching Bonnie how to shoot. There's a couple that comes up to the house. Clyde points a gun at the dad, and the dad's like, it's yours, it's not mine. And then we go into the full story of how the bank took away this couple's house, or this family, I should say, because they have kids. And Bonnie and Clyde essentially see themselves as Robin Hood, where they steal from these greedy banks. There's even one sequence where they're robbing a bank. Clyde looks at one of the customers and goes, "Is that your money?" The guy goes, "Yes," and Clyde goes, "Keep it." So I really do admire that. They're criminals with some sort of dignity to them. I mean, at the end of the day, they do kill people, mainly when they're in shootouts with the cops, and they are criminals at the end of the day, but they don't go around killing everybody in sight. So there's at least some commendability to them. I'm not gonna say this movie glorifies them, because at the end, well, you know the end, but they at least have a little bit of honor to them. You also have some other great actors in this movie. Gene Hackman is Clyde's brother, and he's great. Estelle Parsons plays Gene Hackman's wife, and when I first saw this movie, I found her to be completely obnoxious. And even in my original review, I said I did not like this character at all. I don't understand why this actress won Best Supporting Actress at the Academy Awards for this role, because she got on my nerves. And then I thought back to, well, what if I was in her position? And in a way, I kind of relate to her, because she's pulled into a career that she doesn't want any part of. Like, her husband, his brother, and his brother's lover are going out robbing banks, stealing cars, getting into shootouts with the cops, and she's freaking out because she didn't ask to be part of this. Yeah, the screaming can get irritating, and there are points where she is over the top, but I kind of had some sympathy for her on this second round. The action scenes are really great. The shootouts are violent for 1967. They're well choreographed, they're exciting, and the movie is just beautiful to look at. The cinematography in terms of shooting these landscapes, shooting the action scenes is fantastic, and the whole end sequence, I have to keep going back to this because of how iconic it is. The build-up to the way it's shot, the way it's edited, paced out, and the way it just ends after the shooting's done is brilliant. I don't really have much to say about this movie that could be considered a flaw, because it is just a wildly entertaining movie. It broke ground when it came out, and in a way influenced people to push the boundaries on what you could get away with in movies. I mean, like I said, this movie kind of started the end of the Hays Code, and a year later, the rating system would kick into gear. This movie clearly has a lot of historical relevancy going into it, but as a movie itself, putting the historical stuff aside, it is fantastic and a movie you need to get off your ass and go see right now. There is a reason why this is in my top 100 favorite movies of all time, because it's exciting, it's got great characters, it's well shot, the music is very amusing, where it's basically led by a banjo. So yeah, it's a great movie all around. If you haven't seen it, you definitely need to see it at some point. And there you go, that's my review for Bonnie and Clyde. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, in 2 weeks, I'll be talking about a movie that involves another couple up against the law, and that is Steven Spielberg's Sugarland Express. This movie came out 40 years ago. It's his first theatrical film. I've never seen it, but I'm excited to watch it for the first time. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. And I want to give a special thank you to the YouTube members right here. If you want to help support the channel even more, you can sign up for a YouTube membership for as little as $1.99 a month. Not only do you get early access to all of my videos, but you get exclusive content that nobody else gets to see. So I hope you consider joining as a YouTube member. And until next time, I want to know what you guys think about Bonnie and Clyde. Whatever your opinions are, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. If you want to find me elsewhere on the internet, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads, and my theme park and travel channel right here on YouTube. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day and take care of yourselves.